Hello, I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley.
And I'm her daughter, Dr. Heidi Horsley.
Heidi and I want to welcome you to Open to Hope Conversations, the podcast.
We believe that the greatest gift you can give yourself after a loss is hope, using this moment to connect with others who have not only survived but thrived.
So let's get started. Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my daughter and co-host, Dr. Heidi Horsley. We've got a wonderful guest today. Do you want to introduce her? Because we're going to be talking about the holidays are coming up, Christmas is coming up, and New Year's and all the other holidays. And this is a tough time, and we're going to talk about making afterlife connections during the holidays.
I love that idea. And I love that topic. And we're going to talk with Dr. Ann Clark. She is a bereaved parent and a sought-after speaker on the afterlife. She is the owner of Wisdom for Wellness in Hoover, Alabama, and her popular Great Loss workshops are offered online. She's the author of numerous professional publications that have won various awards, and her latest book is called Healing from Great Loss, Facing Pain and Grief to Recover Your Authentic Self. Welcome to the show, Ann.
Thank you.
Now, you're a nurse, and your daughter was assaulted and had kind of a tough life for 10 years, and then an accidental overdose of medication for stress because of the things that had happened to her early on. I wanted to ask you, I know our audience is going to be really interested in knowing during these holidays about how your afterlife connections and your life in between work that you do. When did you start?
I started that work about 5 years before she had her assault incident. So I was already doing it.
Oh.
And you would think that it would have been of a great deal of help to me. And it was in the long run, but initially it didn't help at all. We're all human, and I went through the usual grief reactions initially.
I think we somewhat play down the body's reaction to the experiences and the minds, and how you do deal with that. So it does take a while before you pull it all together, I think.
Yes, absolutely. It did take me a couple of years before it really helped me. But to go back and tell a little bit more of the story, we had finally come to a place where Stephanie was doing very, very well. And she was starting to get out a bit. She was looking for a job. She had great hope for the future. So much so that I decided to go into the hospital and have a knee surgery that I had been putting off. So I was in the hospital when this happened, and it happened in November. So before I went into the hospital, I bought all her Christmas presents.
Oh.
But while I was in the hospital, she died. And we didn't learn until well after Christmas that it was an accidental overdose.
Oh, wow. So very tough. How did you get through that first Christmas?
That first Christmas was very hard because all the wrapped Christmas gifts for her were sitting there, some of which I'd selected with great care, things that I knew would really help her in her new life that she was beginning to carve out. And it was an extremely difficult period. I just simply cried all day on Christmas.
Yeah. And Ann, how old was your daughter when she died?
She was 42.
I wanted to ask you, because I know people are very interested in this. After you did a lot of the healing process, how did your knowledge about afterlife regression and all that, how did that help you?
Well, I think it helped me in that both as a nurse and as a life between lives facilitator from the Newton Institute, it helped me through understanding death, the afterlife, and what happens to the person that does pass into the afterlife. So I understood all that. And when I was able to work through some of the initial grief reactions, I felt a great deal of comfort through this knowledge. And it also helped me realize that she was around me and trying to let me know she was okay. Later on, it helped me actually reestablish communication with her.
What is the life between life?
Well, we know that through life between lives is an extension of past life regression. In past life regression, we go back to one or more of our past lives. In my practice, the average person who comes to see me has lived between 500 and 1,000 lives previously.
Wow.
But in between these lives, we go back to the spirit world and we continue to grow and learn and have activities. Life between life sessions are addressing that period. They let us know what we're doing in the spirit realm in between our lives on earth.
So
Now-
Anne, just to clarify, we each have been on Earth 500 to 1,000 times.
That's not true of every single one of us.
Okay.
I do have clients who come to me who've only been here a small number of times, but the average is between 500 and 1,000.
Now, if I came to you, what would it look like?
First thing I would do is an introductory appointment to meet you. I'll learn about you, find out why you're interested in past life and life between lives. And then what I would do is set up your past life regression first. In a past life regression, we go to one or more of your past lives. This is done through hypnosis.
I was going to say, do you use hypnosis? Yeah.
Yes, I put you in a very relaxed state and then guide you into a light trance. And I guide you back to one or more of your past lives. Our memories of past lives are stored in our unconscious mind, and we can retrieve these memories. And then later we can process them to help us in our current lives.
Mhm. Now, do you do this with yourself or somebody else to help you with your past lives and your daughter and all that?
Well, I went through the training for this, and yes, I did have my colleagues help me. My past life and my life between lives session following the death of my daughter, I outline that in my book, Healing from Great Loss. It was extremely helpful to me, but it took me about a year to realize how helpful it was. Even as a nurse, having worked with many grieving people, I did not realize how impactful a major loss is in our lives. Impactful to us both physically, psychologically, and spiritually.
Mhm.
And it simply took me a while to be able to integrate that into my experience.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you if how you feel about having your daughter die, though. Is there some benefit? Did we know it was going to happen? Is it a growing thing for us, or is it totally just random? Or
Death is not random. Each of us as souls plan when it is we're going to die, when we're going to leave the planet. So it's not random, and it was not random in my life either. There was a great gift in the loss, as there is for all losses. And it helped me learn one of the major lessons that I had planned to learn during this incarnation. But it took me a while to ferret that out. And the Life Between Lives session was extremely valuable in helping me figure that out.
and what was it? May I ask, or is it?
Yes, I explain it fully in the book. My lesson was I'm a person that loves to help, and it's a wonderful thing to help people. And I have learned through many incarnations not to help most people beyond the point where it's really useful, but I had not yet learned it in my closest relationships. So for my daughter, Stephanie, I wanted to help her so much after she had the horrific experience of the rape and the robbery that I helped her beyond the point that I should have. I should have pulled back at the point that she was able to take over and not continued to help her. That had two negative effects. One, it kept her from moving forward more independently. And two, it completely drained me. I was not taking care of myself during that period because my helping behavior had gone past where it should have.
Oh my goodness, Heidi, this reminds me of something you and I always say and try to work with our clients with is don't want more for people than they want for themselves.
Yes.
Think, Heidi, does that come up for you?
Wise
Absolutely.
saying.
And also that sometimes we are so busy taking care of other people that we put ourselves last and have, health crisis and etc.
Mhm, mhm. So in the life between lives, I don't exactly get the whole sequence because if you do past life regression, then you look at their life between lives.
We do it in a separate session. And when we do life between lives, we actually do lead you back through a previous life and through the death in that life. Usually it's the most previous past life that you've lived, so that you can enter the spirit world naturally and then go from there.
Did you have a relationship with your daughter in past lives?
Yes, we covered a very significant past life that I had with her in the past that related to my excessive helping behavior.
I know that some people say in past lives we have relationships with people, but they're different relationships. For example,
Yes.
my mother in a past life might not have been my mother. She may have been my
Yes,
daughter.
exactly. In the past life that was very significant to our current situation, my daughter was actually my mother.
Okay.
And I completely record that life between life session in the book. What actually happened in that life was she was a mother who really didn't pay much attention to me. We it was in a medieval setting, and we lived in a castle, and I had really everything I would want materially, but no attention. And so what I learned to do in that life to gain attention was to help others. And so that became a way that I coped with not having adequate attention.
So that's balanced back and forth. Well, tell me now, what do you think you're going to have more past lives after this?
According to the work of Dr. Newton, who actually came up with life between lives, we reach a point when we no longer incarnate, but we incarnate on Earth or in other dimensions until we learn lessons to become enlightened, to become wise, enlightened souls.
Very interesting. Well, tell us about your website, where your book is. You're doing, you do trainings.
Yes, my book is entitled Healing from Great Loss, Facing Pain and Grief to Recover Your Authentic Self. And my website is www.birminghamhypnosis.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, and very enlightening, very interesting. If you have your book, can you do this yourself, or do you have to have other people? Or there's aspects that I can
It
do
is
myself?
possible sometimes to do a past life regression by yourself, but not a life between lives session. You do need guidance for that. And when you have guidance, you tend to get much more out of the situation than you were if you would if you were doing it by yourself. And lastly, I just want to say, for Christmas, you can form new traditions. You can make Christmas different than it was so that it can be a joyous event again. But you can't do that until you've gone through the work of grieving your loss.
Absolutely. And hopefully people will get support in that work, particularly during the holidays. Go to their local hospice and find out where their programs and communities are offering things and reach out, right?
Yes.
Reach out. And the Compassionate Friends is a wonderful place for loss of a child during the holidays.
I just wanted to thank Anne for being on today and for enlightening us about past lives. And, I've learned a lot on the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks, everybody, and take care of yourselves during this holiday. And Heidi and I always want to remind you that if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own, and God bless.
I'm Dr. Heidi Horsley. You have been listening to Open to Hope, the podcast. You can follow Open to Hope on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. To learn more, visit us at opentohope.com and go to Apple Podcasts to subscribe.
I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley. Join us again next week for another Open to Hope conversation, where we invite you to lean on our hope until you find your own.